Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jonathan, and I shall be your MC today. I'm pleased to welcome those here in our community center and those joining in on Facebook Live and YouTube to Kansas City Oasis. Since 2014, Oasis has been the premier secular alternative to faith-based communities. We welcome all, regardless of belief or non-belief, race, gender, sexual orientation, identity, or any other trait. We feel the human experience is better when shared, and we're pleased that you have chosen to share it with us this morning. Here at Oasis, we gather around our 5 core values, which are: people are more important than beliefs, reality is known through reason, human hands solve human problems, meaning comes from making a difference, and being accepting, and be accepted. For today's program, our featured speaker is Tom Rafiner. He'll be speaking on Cinders and Silence, Western Missouri's Burnt District. Our musical guest is Malek Azrael, and our community moment will be shared by Russ, Conrad. Malek is where raw rock energy meets the souls of R&B. With roots in both alternative rock and the smooth grooves of R&B, he brings a sound that's as gritty as it is soulful. Whether leading Malek Azrael and the vibes or performing solo, his music is a reflection of deep emotion, storytelling, and passion, blending heartfelt melodies, powerful vocals, and electrifying guitar riffs into something that feels both fresh and timeless. Please give a warm Oasis welcome to Malek.
Hello, everybody. Well, first things first, I'm really happy to be here. Usually I have 4 other guys up here with me kind of rocking around, but also I'm a singer-songwriter, and that's where I got my start, that's where I got my roots. So I am really excited and honored to be able to do this for you today. The first song that I would like to start off with is a song called Mind in Motion. And it is kind of about rebuilding and, life and just your mentality and being okay with that journey. And so I wrote this kind of for myself, kind of as an anthem. It's also morning, so if I hit a few weird notes, act like I didn't. Is this a dream? This can't be real. Am I alive? How do I feel if I close my eyes? Did I exist? How do I make any sense of this? If I don't jump, how will I know? And sometimes the pain is the hardest thing to show. If I do this for them, then I'll be broken. Feels like I'm on time that's been stolen, and it really changes you in ways you never noticed. Standing still with a mind in motion.
world came crashing down. I picked up all the pieces and did it by myself. Found solace in the silence, peace in the progress. Changed my mind a million times till I liked it. And it really changes you in ways you never noticed. Standing still with a mind in motion. Ways you never noticed. Standing still with a mind in motion.
Thank you so much. That song is one of my favorite songs because when I wrote it, it was less about trying to make sense and more about trying to just put feeling out there, if this makes any sense, where feelings don't always seem to make sense. They contradict each other sometimes. And I think when I wrote this song, it's just like, let's put ourselves exactly where we are. And I overthink a lot. So the reason why I called it Mind in Motion was how it feels when you don't know someone has anxiety or is an overthinker. They could be completely fine and standing right in front of you, but up here it's just racing. And if you've been in it, you understand. Also, as I was kind of performing that, I had to cough so bad. And I was like, and it really changes you. But yes, I'm gonna do another song and then I think take a break and then come back. Is that right? Cool. All right. So I'm in a rock band, as you can see in that really edgy photo. But I also like to write really peaceful things because I think sometimes you need something that's just, you can ride the wind, you know, and that's what I try to create, music that's about mental health that you can just get lost in and feel seen. So this song is actually one of the first songs I wrote for my first ever project. It's called Waves. And it's about going to that place that you feel safe. You know, whenever everything else around you feels like chaos, I decided to make a song to bring people into my safe space. So typically I tell people to close their eyes when they do that, but like, you don't gotta do it. If you want to, cool. But it's one of my favorite songs and my band loves it too, so.
Sunrise reflecting off my skin, closed eyes I see myself in an ocean of stars, somewhere far. Got nowhere to be, nothing to see, so I'll stay. Life can wait, 'cause you know everything will turn out okay when you listen to the waves. Listen to the waves. Listen to the waves. Listen to the waves. Footprints lying on the sand reminds me of where I began. Looking across this vast ocean, problems seem so small. And as your mind begins to open, all your worries fall right off. 'Cause you know everything will turn out okay when you listen to the waves. Listen to the waves. Listen to the waves. Listen to the waves. Listen to, 'cause you know everything will turn out okay. You have nothing left to explain, 'cause you know everything will turn out okay when you listen to the waves. Thank you.
Thank you, Malik. That was phenomenal. I love your sound. It's my jam. Okay. Birthdays this week. April 28th is Maureen Kennedy. May 2nd is James Skinner and Melanie Phillips. Would like to wish a happy 12th anniversary to Amy and Jason on May 1st. And does anybody else have a birthday or a celebration this week? Yes.
My mom's birthday's on May 2nd.
Beautiful. Awesome. Okay. As you know, here at Oasis, one of our core beliefs is that human hands solve human problems. A part of how we make that happen is through our care response team. Let us know if you'd like to join this team. If you're going through a challenging time and need some assistance, the care response team is there. Please let us know if of any retirements, weddings, births, deaths in family, illnesses, hospitalizations, or anyone you know who would appreciate us reaching out. This Monday, join us to watch and sing along during the monthly Monday musical, Guys and Dolls. Will be at 5:30 tomorrow. This Friday, May 1st, join us for Swing Dance Night. There will be a free beginner lesson at 7:30, $10 at the door, then dance from 8 till 10. Next Saturday, May 2nd, which I think there's some birthdays that day, is the Mayflower Pub Crawl at 539th Street bars from 2 to 6. What better way to celebrate your birthday, right, guys? If you purchase your ticket at the merch table, you don't have to pay the Eventbrite online ticket fee. This is open to anyone in the public who wants to attend, so please share this on your social media and invite others. Next Tuesday, May 5th, starts a 4-week Charleston tandem dance class. Beginners welcome. Tuesdays at 6:30, $15, and no partner is required. Mark your calendar for karaoke night, Saturday, May 9th, family friendly, from 6 to 9 p.m. here at Oasis. Also, make your reservation now if you would like to join us for an Oasis campout at Watkins Mill State Park. There are only a few campsites left in the loop where others are reserved. More info and their website can be found on our event or on our website. Contact Sally Minden if you have questions or need assistance reserving. This is the last weekend in May and not Memorial Day weekend. If you're interested in joining our Facebook private page, ask someone with a yellow Oasis name tag. Okay, and next, nope, not quite. Community moments are an opportunity for a member of our community to present on a topic of their choice during a Sunday gathering. Topics can be related to your profession, hobbies, travel experiences, volunteer experiences, etc. Sign up on kcoasis.org or speak with Roger Pick. Speaking of, for today's community moment, we'll hear from Russ Conrad. 3 words to describe them are self-doubting, always right, but maybe not. If they had a warning label, it would be makes sudden U-turns. Okay.
Thank you. Clicker. All right. Awesome. So I'm Russ Conrad, and just to, first of all, let me explain why I'm standing up here. Last week, somebody came up to me and said, "We need a community moment speaker. Will you do it, please?" So I said yes. So my purpose up here is actually to give you a presentation that is so boring that you will say, "I must do it better." All right, and tell my story, because it's going to be more interesting than this. All right, so also, who was here in Oasis during COVID? Okay, my apologies to you, because you may have seen this before, but yet it is an interesting subject, and one that I think is important, and has not gotten any less important since then. So I'm going to be talking about understanding media bias, and a lot of what I'm going to say comes out of this little pamphlet, How to Detect Media Bias and Propaganda, by Paul and Elder, who've done a lot of work in critical thinking over the years, and run a website that I'll show you at the end of the presentation. Okay, so first, when I say media, we understand all the different types of media: print, radio, TV, and social media, internet, all of that, right? What I'm largely going to address is professional media, but yet a lot of the principles I'm going to talk about cover other media. The thing is, it's so difficult nowadays to tell professional media from unprofessional media, because anybody can get out there and create a YouTube video that looks like professional journalism, but may not be. So we need to be aware of that. Okay, so let's start off by agreeing that we can't know everything. That circle up there represents all of the things that happen on any given day. The little tiny red circle in the middle represents the things that get reported. So what we're going to talk about is what's going on in that little red circle, right? Yep. Closer. Okay. Okay, so first of all, what affects what gets reported? What goes into that little red circle, right? So first of all, written articles have line space. Broadcast time, to include YouTube videos, have airtime. And on the case of internet stuff, it's less so, but very few of us are going to watch an hour-long video about something. You're more inclined to watch a 6-minute video about something. So it does still warrant some thought. So because of those limitations, editing happens, right? And editing cuts out certain information. You don't get all of the story, even that's known by whoever's telling the story. And so all known facts really can't get reported. And then there are other things, especially in professional journalism, that affect the accuracy and completeness of what you're hearing, right? We understand that journalists have deadlines, there's a news cycle to meet, and media outlets, professional media outlets especially, are under pressure to get their story out first, right? To achieve one-up on their competitors. So we understand that's the nature of it. So no matter how professional the journalist may be, they, in the end, have to sell a product. And so those types of things affect what gets reported. The other thing, and really this is the media bias part of it that comes in, is we all understand that there are different points of view. Every point of view doesn't see the whole truth. You get the truth from your perspective, right? So each point of view only highlights certain facts. They downplay certain facts. They ignore certain facts. Certain facts don't resonate with them. So no single POV will give you the entire story. And so if you are looking for the entire story, you need to examine multiple points of view. But let's understand what a point of view is. So first of all, the qualities that you see in the blue arrow there, the culture, values, and so forth, have a huge impact on your point of view, and especially culture and values. As an aside, I really didn't want to talk about persuasion, but if you're in the business of persuading somebody and you're trying to persuade them based on your values and not on the audience's values, well, that's not going to work. You need to present your story from the perspective of the values of your target audience. So the other interesting thing is that we tend to look at our point of view as being the only legitimate point of view. And that's sociocentrism really expresses that idea that there's only one way to think, and it's my way. Which is a flaw, right? Learning to acknowledge the validity of other points of view is an important piece of understanding and looking at things from other perspectives. In the end, though, when we talk about bias, we understand that your point of view, all of those qualities lend bias to your thinking and bias to how you take in and understand information. So in the end, your point of view equals what you can see versus added together and filtered with what you want to see and what you're inclined to see. So how do we do it? Well, how do we fix this? What do we do? All right, so we need to learn to approach information and stories objectively. So how do you do that? First of all, know yourself. Understand and recognize your own biases. That's the first step to sort of eliminating it and understanding other perspectives. Second, understand the context and the history of the story that you're listening to. Do a little research. Find out about what's happened in the past related to the story. And then finally, examine multiple points of view. Now, this is harder than you might think. Watch CSNBC and then flip on Fox News, right? Look at multiple perspectives, understand the validity of all of those perspectives, right? And then examine each story and understand how the story is constructed. Identify the intended audience, who is the speaker trying to influence here, recognize that the point of view is not, what information do you know that the point of view is not expressing? And then distinguish between the raw facts that are being given versus the interpretation of those facts or the spin. And learning to recognize that is a skill. And then finally, ask yourself, is the story that you're listening to examining multiple perspectives? Do they report or interview folks from multiple points of view? If you're listening to a story that's critical of the government, do they interview somebody from the government? Okay, so, and then through all of that, you've got to pull out the useful information. George Goebel, the minister of propaganda in Nazi Germany, made the observation that all propaganda has an element of truth. Propaganda, if it's going to work, has an element of truth. Now, I'm not really talking about propaganda here, and a little bit of terminology. When you hear the term misinformation, to me, I define misinformation as information that is wrong. It's spread, but it's wrong. Now, that's different from disinformation, which is information that is wrong, but spread knowing that it's wrong, right? It's intentional. It's like the difference between being wrong and lying. And then propaganda is disinformation spread with a political agenda at the end of it. At least that's how I define it. So as you listen to a story, be sensitive to the biases and try to detect the biases that are present. What is the storyteller's, what are their biases? What are their fundamental beliefs? Are they affected by advertisers? Are they influenced by the government? Are they influenced by other interests and owners? Are they forced to compete with competitors that might influence the story and the angle that you're listening to? You try to examine all of those things and understand the perspective and the bias of the storyteller. And then finally, understand the story is constructed. What do I mean by that? Understanding the construction of the story. First of all, is the target audience, is it newsworthy to the target audience? I was listening over the weekend to the Royals' announcement that they were going to build their stadium in Kansas City. Interesting, but not if you're from Boston. I doubt very seriously that story was reported in the Boston Globe because it doesn't resonate with that audience there. How's the headline constructed? Headlines are designed to grab your attention, to get you to read the rest of the article. Because of that, to grab your attention, it may be sensationalist, right? And then you read the rest of the story. On the internet, it's that clickbait down there in the corner that are trying to grab your attention and get you to read a story that you might not otherwise have chosen to read. So pay attention to the headline. What information is highlighted? What information is downplayed? Notice in print media, I'm one of the 2 people in the world who still get a printed newspaper every day. And you'll notice that there are some very important stories that are buried on page 6. There's some stories on the front page that I couldn't care less about, right? Why is that? There's a reason why that storyteller, that news outlet, decided to put those stories on the front page. So understand that. How much time or space is given to the story? Again, and then you have to force yourself to access stories that offer a different perspective, right? Is the story told in a professional manner, or is it not? So, in the end, be a critical consumer of news. Now, the importance there is, well, how do you do that? First of all, do the work. To be a critical consumer of news means that you're going to have to take the time to do a little research, to find those different perspectives, to not just watch or listen to your favorite news program, but to actually research what other points of view are saying about this particular story. Identify trustworthy sources, sources that are less biased. There are websites that are out there, they're easy enough to find, that will analyze and give you the political leanings of various news outlets like CNN and Fox and CBS and NBC and PBS and BBC and all of that, and they'll give you an analysis of their political leanings on the left and right, and why. They'll offer evidence to that. So you can use those websites to identify trustworthy news sources. And then finally, suspend your judgment of a subject until all the facts are in, understanding that all the facts can never be in, because we can never know the full story. But at least you're understanding that that initial news story that those media outlets rushed to get out there are incomplete at best, and more information is going to come out. So suspend judgment until then. And finally, have a little bit of intellectual humility. Understand, number one, that you don't know everything. Number two, that you are biased. And be willing to accept new information and information that contradicts your initial thoughts about a subject. Now, if you do those things, you'll be less likely to be manipulated by the press. Now, I would offer you this last thought. We all have a responsibility to seek the truth, to understand. Number one, we vote, and you should vote from a position of knowledge and understanding. Only by understanding the truth and seeking the truth can you prevent misinformation. Can you know the facts? Can you foster justice? And all of that enables holding powerful people accountable. Okay, and then finally, if you're interested more about this subject, I would refer you to criticalthinking.org, which is the organization that Paul and Elder founded and has a lot of information, not just about this, but about critical thinking in general. Thank you. We're going to drop the mic.
Thank you for that. Okay, time for the coffee break. So during the coffee break, please try to introduce yourself to someone you don't know. Our main speaker also has books for sale in the lobby. Check those out. And also you can see the TV over the center doors for more upcoming events and information. We'll see you back in 20 minutes. Welcome back. Okay, let's welcome Malik back for another song. Before we start, Malik, where can we see you play in the near future? Do you have any gigs coming up?
I do. I will be performing for Manifest on May 29th at the Joby Art Center at 8 o'clock. I also have a show May 1st at Farewell Cafe. And then I have another show June 13th at Encore at the Uptown Theater.
Nice. And these are all with the band, or do you play some of these solo as well?
Some of these will be solo, and some of them will be full band. I know the May 1st and the May 29th will be full band, and then June 13th will be like me and maybe one other player. Very intimate.
Very cool. Come check you out. Thanks.
We stayed up till 6 a.m., sharing way too much. Now I'm sitting here, hoping I said enough. 'Cause I like to keep things to myself. No, I don't like to share with anyone else. But you know my mind, and I know yours. You've got my handprint tangled in yours. And now we're trying hard to not let this fade away. But the truth is, I know I can't stay. So I'm on my way home. I shouldn't be thinking about you. Why I keep thinking about I'm on my way home. I shouldn't be thinking about you. Why I keep thinking about. You think it's easy pretending not to be faced, pretending I'm not hooked on every word you say. But I know you get scared, and that's fair for me too. But the scariest part is not knowing where I stand with you. So I'm on my way home. I shouldn't be thinking about you. Why I keep thinking about I'm on my way home. I shouldn't be thinking about you. Why I keep thinking about. So call me, tell me to turn around. Tell me you think we can work this out. Help me stop lying to myself about where I'm going. 'Cause you know where my home is, so I'm on my way. I'm on my way. I'm on my way home to you. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. I'm on my
you so much.
Thank you, Malik. Now it's time for our main speaker. Before we start, please note that our program is designed to generate conversation and engage our powers of reason, not as a forum to start debates. The following presentation has been prepared by our speaker and not by Casey Oasis. Please respect the views of our speaker, and if you have any questions, a Q&A portion will follow as time permits. Tom Rafiner is an independent researcher, having devoted 21 years recovering and documenting Missouri's burnt district history in Jackson, Cass, and Bates counties. To date, he has published 2 histories and 1 biography, all anchored in antebellum and Civil War Western Missouri. Please welcome Tom Rafiner. And we'll be passing out these neat little postcards that Tom brought. They have just some information and a cool little picture on them.
I'm on. Whoa. It's going to take me just a second to get set up. You may notice, or it'll soon become very evident, that I am not technologically gifted. So thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I grew up in Raytown, and my wife grew up in Independence. I live in Columbia, but we're back and forth to Kansas City all the time. Why am I here? I stumbled into what I do 23 years ago, and the picture that you saw was taken 23 years ago, I think. That was a younger version of me. But in 2003, I was doing some research on my family, some genealogy research after I retired. And I found out that I had family that lived outside Harrisonville. And in the 1850s, they were driven out of western Missouri. I had another family that lived in Jackson County, and early in the Civil War, they were driven to Kansas, to Shawnee. So I knew what had happened to them. And in 2003, I asked the question, what happened to the other 40,000 people? And the answer I was given was, why don't you find out? So I've spent the last 23 years trying to find out what happened to 40,000 people that lived in what became the Missouri Burnt District in 1863. So that's what I'm about. I'm still doing it. I do it every day. I haven't found all 40,000 people. Even though what happened occurred during the Civil War, I am not so much into the military. I'm not so much into the battles. I am very interested in finding out what the individual people, their families, the communities that existed on the eve of Civil War. What happened to those 40,000 people? So, every day I get up and I continue my research. So, I'd like to begin. I've got some notes here to make sure I don't get lost. So, one of the messages that this is a tall order to cover all of this history in 30 minutes. So it's going to be like drinking out of a fire hose. I'm going to go quickly. I want to engage your imaginations. I want to take you back to the 1850s and 1860s and ask you to absorb a lot of information. I'd like to start out, if I could, if this is going to work. So Jason, I'm going to play a song here. It's playing. It says it's playing. Is it in? Okay. The purpose of this song is to provide some context for what happened.
I've got a babe, but shall I keep him? Twill come the day when I'll be weeping. But how can I love him any less? This little babe upon my breast. You can take my body, you can take my bones, you can take my blood, but not my soul. You can take my body, you can take my bones, you can take my blood, but not my soul. I've got a body dark and strong. I was young, but not for long. You took me to bed, a little girl. Left me in a woman's world. You can take my body, you can take my bones, you can take my blood, but not my soul. You can take my body, you can take my bones, you can take my blood, but not my soul. Day by day, I work the line. Every minute overtime. Fingers nimble, fingers quick. My fingers bleed to make you rich. You can take my body, you can take my bones, you can take my blood, but not my soul. You can take my body, you can take my bones, you can take my blood, but not my soul. You can take my body, you can take my bones, you can take my blood, but not my soul. Take my body, you can take my bones, you can take my blood, but not my soul. I've got a babe, but shall I keep it?
So I wanted to play that song to provide some context for what I'm going to be talking about for the next few minutes is focused and anchored in slavery. In 1860, there were 40,000 human beings that lived in what became the Missouri Burnt District. Over 5,000 of those human beings were enslaved people. All of the violence that started in 1854 along the Missouri-Kansas border was tied to this issue of slavery. So it's important as we talk about what happened in the Missouri Burnt District that it all begins within the context of slavery. So I do some work with the Kinder Institute of Constitutional Democracy at the University of Missouri. And to give you some idea of what it was like in the Burnt District, I want to read just a quick quote from a talk that was given by Jay Sexton, who runs the Missouri, the Kinder Institute. Jay grew up in Salina, Kansas. He taught at Oxford University in England for a number of years. And just a few months ago, he talked about the Burnt District. And one of the things he said was, this was the collapse of an entire social order. Extremists came to dominate ordinary people like ourselves. And then we lived in fear. Don't think of this as a civil war with well-organized armies, command structures, and uniforms. It was not that. It was violence doled out by roaming guerrilla bands. This was not constitutional democracy. It was gang politics, an American reign of terror. And that really describes what happens in the Missouri Burnt District. So I want to give you a little bit of a geographic footprint before I begin. I'm going to be talking about 2,200 square miles of western Missouri, Jackson County, Cass County, and Bates County. In 1863, this area was known as the District of the Border, as defined by the Union Army. So 40,000 civilians lived in this area in 1860. 5,500 of those individuals were enslaved people. I have to warn you that a few decades ago I was a school teacher, so I've got to rely on some old methods. So one of the methods is that I'm going to be talking about before and after. And right now I'm talking about before. There will be a test. Before. Before what? Before the Lawrence raid. So when I wrote the book, Cinders and Silence, and you all got a copy of a mailer that went out years ago, I wanted you to have this because the title of that book, Cinders and Silence. Cinders, what happened in western Missouri? Silence, how come nobody knows about it? I grew up in the Missouri Burnt District. I had no idea there was a burnt district until 23 years ago when I asked that silly question, what happened to 40,000 people? So what I'm going to talk about for a couple of minutes is before. Before Lawrence. What about before Lawrence? 1861 was before. Here's what I want you to know about 1861. In 1861, masters began moving hundreds of enslaved people to Texas. They moved down western Missouri, through Arkansas, through Indian Territory, to northeast Texas. Also, in 1861, troops from Kansas began to move into Missouri. And they did two things that you need to remember. The first thing is they were liberating hundreds of slaves and giving them hope and freedom in Kansas. But the other thing the troops were doing, you'll notice 14 on the bottom. Remember that number. 14 towns and villages in these counties were completely burned to the ground in 1861. On January the 1st, 1862, Kansas troops arrived in Dayton, Missouri. They put 60 families out in the cold and the snow. They burned that town to the ground. That happened to 13 other towns and villages. And remember, this is before. 1862, Texas. Hundreds of slaves continued that journey to Texas. In 1862, Kansas troops continued to occupy western Missouri, where they liberated enslaved people and took revenge on white families regardless of their allegiance. And you'll notice at the bottom of this expertly designed handout is Q. Quantrell. In 1862, William Quantrell organized one of those guerrilla groups that Jay Sexton talked about. And all through 1862 and into 1863, Quantrell and his men terrorized Union troops and Union families in western Missouri. And oh, by the way, in the winter, they went to Texas, to the same 3 counties where those enslaved people from Jackson, Cass, and Bates County were taken in 1861. So what happened? Well, in 1863, William Quantrell and 400 men rode to Lawrence, Kansas in August. They were there for about 2 hours. When they left Lawrence, between 185 and 200 men and boys were dead in the streets. They rode back into western Missouri. After. What happened after the Lawrence raid? Well, in Cass County, this gentleman, Thomas Ewing Jr., met with this gentleman, James Lane, who was threatening to invade western Missouri. What happened in that meeting was that General Ewing agreed to issue General Orders Number 11. Lane agreed that he would not invade western Missouri. So General Order Number 11 was issued on August the 25th, 1863. And what did that order say? There are only a few things that you have to remember. The next 2 slides are very important. The first one, all. The order applied to all people, all civilians, regardless of your background, regardless of your beliefs, regardless of which side you were fighting on, all. Everybody out in 15 days. Now, we'll never know exactly how many of the 40,000 were turned into refugees by General Order Number 11. But we do know this. With the exception of military stations where a few people were allowed to stay, all people had 15 days to get out. In most cases, in the real world, they had 15 minutes. Troops arrived on their farms. They were told to pack up their belongings and hit the road. And as they hit the road, troops set their homes on fire. And this became known by September 30th, 1863, as the Missouri Burnt District. Everything was burned to the ground. If you visit Harrisonville today and go to the Burnt District Monument, that monument is constructed as a lone chimney. And the reason it was constructed as a lone chimney is because when people walked through 2,200 square miles of western Missouri after the Civil War, the only thing standing in the countryside were chimneys. So, consider this. On the eve of Civil War, there were 40,000 civilians that lived in this area. There were 2,800 family farms, 2,800 barns, thousands of horses, 6,000 miles of 6 and 8 rail fencing. In 1865, gone. It was all gone. It was all in cinders. So I want to give you a little bit of a flavor about what happened. Now, I know you can't see this, so I'm going to ask for your imaginations, okay? What I'm going to hold up is a mural that is actually 14 feet long, and it's this tall. It's in the State Historical Society of Missouri. But what happened in August of 1863 is this. Thousands of women and children and a few men were turned into refugees. Here's what it was like. You all live in either western Missouri or Kansas. It was August. It was hot. The average temperature during that 15-day period hovered between 95 and 105. It had not rained in 6 weeks. There was no water. Most of the people had to walk because the wagons were gone, the horses had been taken. The only horses left, most, were old or blind. And they were blind because owners had put their eyes out. So consider this as I hold this up. Thousands, probably over 20,000 civilians left western Missouri in 95-degree heat with no water, taking only the possessions they could carry with them. All of the stories, all of the people in this mural are real people. I'll tell one story. This is a whole different presentation. But if you were close, you would notice that Margaret Rowland, right here, you know Margaret, she's 8 months pregnant. She lives in Pleasant Hill. She's on the road with her children. You know what happens, or you can imagine what happens if you're 8 months pregnant. You have to get in 95-degree heat and walk out 40 miles. It wasn't long before the baby decided that it was time. And Margaret Rowland pulled off the road into the weeds and gave birth to a baby boy that she named Leavin'. because she was leaving Pleasant Hill. So here's the impact of the story in short term and why the silence happened. I mentioned that in 1860, the population of the burnt district was 40,000. On September the 30th, 1860, it was probably about 6. 5 years after the end of the Civil War, the population was 90,000. The people that left, 66% of them never came back. The people that moved in came from Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York. They hadn't been here. They didn't know what had happened, and they really didn't care. That, in conjunction with the Drake Constitution in 1865, put a mute button on everything that had happened. And by the next generation, Order Number 11 had disappeared. So I want to end with a quick story about, did any good come from this? When Harry Truman became president of the United States in 1945, and after the Second World War, when the Marshall Plan was implemented, Harry Truman supported the Marshall Plan in large measure because he could remember what it was like for his family who had been refugees impacted by Order Number 11. And that it was that legacy of remembering what had happened to his family that brought him to support the assistance that was needed in Europe to help those people get back on their feet. So that's a lot of history in just a few minutes. I hope it's been informative. I don't know how much time there is for questions, but if there are any, I would take them and I'll close. Yes.
Have the mic.
You mentioned that mural. It's in the Missouri Historical Society. Where's that?
It's in Columbia.
Columbia. Okay. And then are you going to show the picture of the painting of Order 11? Did you have it here?
A picture?
The George Caleb Bingham painting
Yes.
of Order 11.
Martial law.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't know you got a slide of it.
Oh, no.
Don't worry about it. Okay, thanks.
Huh? Oh.
Oh, where did most of the refugees from the burnt district go? West into Kansas? Were they even welcome there, or did they go to relatives further east?
So most of the refugees headed east, and many of them walked to Lexington, Missouri, where they got over the river and then headed east. A few weeks after Order Number 11 was issued here in Kansas City, north of the Missouri River, they issued an order that said, we don't want the refugees here. So many of them continued on east back to Kentucky, and many settled in the eastern side of the state.
The question I had was, sometimes when I'm going on walks in parks, one of the parks I like to go to is Cave Spring, and one of the things I notice when I'm walking along the trails is the remains of houses and more specifically the chimneys that are left, and I have to wonder if Cave Spring was at all a part of this.
Where is this now?
It's right next to Raytown. I think it's just barely into Raytown.
Oh. I don't know. I don't know. Sorry. No, I don't know.
Those are a later settlement,
Yeah, I
Cave
would think
Springs.
so.
They're a later settlement. My question is, the motivation of burning the homes, was that to prevent attracting looters, or was it just out of malice? Why did they burn the homes after notifying the people they had to leave?
So what happened was, what they were trying to do generally was to put a stop for any protection and shelter for bushwhackers. And there was a strong feeling, and it was happening, that some of the families in western Missouri were actually supporting the bushwhackers. So by getting rid of the homes, there was no protection for them to stay in barns or homes or whatever. Some of the few homes that did survive Order Number 11 became military outposts for Union patrols in the area.
Do you think William Westmoreland in Vietnam search and destroy the same thing to hamlets? They would go burn the Vietnamese hamlets to prevent support from the populace?
You know, I don't know about Vietnam, but I can tell you where there's a great book by Clay Montcastle, and his feeling was that what happened in western Missouri when they applied this force to the civilians actually got started in Mexico during the Mexican War. And that's how the U.S. Army in Mexico was able to control the civilian population.
Oh, you already answered my question about the overall strategic objective.
Are there any historical landmarks in places like Olathe, Gardner, and Lawrence?
Yes. Yeah, there are. In fact, what I would suggest is that there's a book called The Great Divide, and it literally that book is about landmarks in freedom's frontier that you can visit that tie back to this story and the history. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, in just a moment, I'll be passing the volunteer task cards basket. Please grab one that you can accomplish today after our meeting concludes. Is there some feedback? Once you finish the task, return that note card to the done purple box in the lobby near the drink station. All the cleaning supplies you might need are in the white cabinet in the foyer, right by the lemonade. We need everyone to help keep this place looking great. Just a second. While our musician is coming back to the stage, we'd like to thank all those who are monthly donors that help keep KC Oasis running. Kansas City Oasis is a 501c3 nonprofit run solely on donations and volunteers. If you like the topics and music today, please consider donating through kcoasis.org or by Venmo. Our Venmo info can be found at the merch table in the lobby, as well as cash donation jars. Recurring monthly donations through our website are most helpful. Here's Malek for one last song. As a reminder, there's a cash chip jar on the stage and Venmo if you'd like to support his music.
All right. How y'all feeling? You feeling good? Well, this last one is going to be a little bit more fun. I know I've been taking y'all through all of my favorite emotional stuff, but this one is very, very cute. It's called Molasses. And I think I like you, and I think you know it. She's in my rear view, and you're in my focus. Don't you make me a fool. Always tell me the truth.
'cause you got that homegrown, smooth tone. Raise your family in a happy home kind of vibe that I like. And as it just so happens, my love is so sweet. They call it molasses. They call it molasses. They call it molasses. They call it molasses. Brown sugar, a little bit of butter. Turn up the heat, and baby, that's me. I know it sounds crazy, but something about you, it's so familiar. You've got that homegrown, smooth tone. Raise your family in a happy home kind of vibe that I like. And as it just so happens, my love is so sweet. They call it molasses. They call it molasses. They call it molasses. They call it molasses. And I know I lay it on thick, but I got a thing for you, baby, and I won't be let go of it. You've got that homegrown, smooth tone. Raise your family in a happy home kind of vibe that I like. And as it just so happens, my love is so sweet. They call it molasses. They call it molasses. We could take it slow. We should take it slow, slow. We can take it slow. We should take it slow, slow, and call it molasses. And call it molasses. Thank y'all so much for having me today.
Thank you so much for sharing your music with us, Malek. Okay, afterwards, join us for lunch to continue the conversation at Tower Tavern. And next week, our feature speaker will be Michelle Norris of Corey's Network on Service to Surviving Victims of Homicide. Our musical guest will be Chris Bruder, and the community moment will be from Tim Bills. Before we head out, please take a few minutes to help clean up. Again, we'd like to thank this week's presenters, Tom and musician Malek, and thank you for being here or tuning in online. See you next week.